Hello, folks.
Right here.
Welcome, welcome.
I thought I'm on the wrong link and I was about to check and you just joined.
I'm sorry. The speaker from the previous meeting was so good and people had so many questions. I had to be sure somebody else could take over before I left. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your patience. Um, I see everybody's rolling in here. Excellent. Thank y'all for being on camera. It makes a big, big difference for me. Okay. Welcome. Let's get started with this. We have a couple of new people that have joined us. Is anybody on that is new for us this year? I mean, this week?
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Yes. You want to introduce yourself?
I will start. This is Katia Dat. I'm joining from Montreal. This is my first week in here. So I'm attending this course to prepare for the certification. And hopefully it will give me a better, let's say, framework how to memorize the Babok book because I'm finding it very complicated. I work as a business consultant for an IT consultancy company, and I'm working on SAP system for a bank in Montreal.
Very good. Do I have
I'm
any other?
from I'm
Go
from
ahead.
Toronto. Sorry, I just want to say that. I'm from Toronto and I also work for bank CIBC. Nice to meet you.
Nice
Well,
meeting you.
Sorry, Tia.
anybody else new here?
Hi, this is
Okay.
Michelle.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Michelle. Tell us about you. Why did you decide to join us?
So I've been a BSA for about 26 years, and I've always wanted to get my certification, just was not sure of how to go about doing that from a standpoint of my learning and work-life balance and everything. And so after connecting with you, this is the right time, and I'm looking forward to getting my certification.
Okay, we're planning your certification for this year. We're good at this.
Yes.
And Alba, tell
Hi,
us about you.
everyone. Good evening. Hi, Thea. Finally made it. Thank you so much for being so patient with me. And sorry I missed last class, but I am currently working for a consulting firm, and they've dubbed me the go-to BA, and very different from being a PM. I guess they kind of thought it was one and the same. And so, similarly to the video that you shared with us, I really want to make sure that when I'm speaking to the other BAs in other firms, that we are speaking the same language. Because again, coming from more of a PM background, it does not kind of, align exactly right.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. I was really actually shocked to see how different it is actually. So I'm really excited to learn the new terminology. It's almost like speaking a whole new language for me. So I'm really excited.
Very good. Anybody else new on the call?
Hi, yes, I'm new.
Hi.
Hi, well, I'm still stuck in my car. So you guys pardon the environment for now. On here, well, so my name is Oladuni, but I go by my middle name, Tosin. So, because I
Okay.
just realized that Zoom has well, because I'm signed into my Zoom, so it still has me as Tosin, but on your thing, you'll see Oladuni. So you can call me Ola, you can call me Tosin, whichever is fine. So first class. I just had a baby and trying to transition into business analysis. And I'm like, you know what? This will be the best time. So, yes, here I am.
That's excellent. Would does somebody have the link to this meeting available that you could drop it in the chat? I've got somebody saying that they're not able to get in, so I need to send them a link and
Yeah, I
I don't
can
want to
copy it.
spend. If you could
That's okay.
copy it and drop it in the chat, I will copy it and give it to him and get
Okay.
him in here and we can move forward. Has anybody ever had too many windows open?
Every
It
day.
seems to be a normal thing for me. And the more excited I get, the more windows I have open, which, it's just okay. Okay.
Did I sound it right?
Okay, got that one. Copy that over and drop it. Send it. And I don't think anybody else is reaching out to me saying that they have challenges. Okay. Do we have all the new people introduced? Okay.
Yeah,
Did I hear one more?
just me.
Okay.
And I can't, I'm using my phone right now because I'm trying to get in the house.
Okay.
And I'll once I get in, I'll turn my camera on. But I'm Taronda Ricks, everyone. I belong to the Raleigh RTP chapter of IIBA. And I've joined to the study group to also get my certification, as well as to understand how it's ran, get an understanding of how things pretty much go, because this may be my task for the chapter once we begin doing it. So
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. I trust that you all have your BABOK. Anybody not have their BABOK? The physical copy is preferred, right? Okay. We're going to actually go through and make some corrections in it. It was written by a group of volunteers from all over the world, and then it was reviewed for the last 10 years by analysts. You guys. And of course, you find this word is missing or whatever. We're going to go through it at the end of the meeting and be sure that you have the correct information in your version so that as you study it, you have everything ready. I want to review this concept with you. This is not in the BABOK. This is my own thing that I created to try to help you understand what we're moving into. I want you to think about the BABOK as a portrait. Whenever you begin a portrait, you always start with the background. It is the thing that everything is going to be anchored against. It's your foundation. And so chapters 1 and 2, chapter 9, chapter 10, chapter 11, and the glossary. This is that stuff, it's common terms that we all need to learn, but this is your foundational background. This is not part of your project. We're not there yet. And then we're going to move to your middle ground. It's your structure. Chapters 3, 4, and 5. Not part of the project yet. It's not like the beginning of your project, but it's things you do around the beginning of your project to understand the overall project, but it's not the project yet. This is your middle ground. And then we're going to get to your project. This, I want to create this database, this UI, this whatever. This is chapters 6, 7, and 8. So we're going to be moving our way from background right now into middle ground, and then we're going to work on the project. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, I don't understand. We don't begin projects with all this stuff. We begin talking about the need. That's true. And that's chapter 6. That's where we're going to hit the need. But I want you to understand that we are going to see the need a few places before then. We're going to start talking about it from a project perspective in chapter 6. Okay? Okay. How many of you were able to do anything on chapters 1 and 2 in the practice test questions? Few of you? Good. Was it helpful for you? Did it
It
make you
was.
understand the concepts?
So I have my own copy to show you. So I
She
did, yeah. So for the first time I read, only one time I read, and it took me an hour to read both the. I would like to share with everybody both the
Okay.
chapter,
Okay.
and then when I was not into the work in my break time, maybe in the lunch time, I thought, okay, let me do the test. So I printed this out, opened the questions in front of me. In the first chapter, first question was wrong, answer was wrong, and then I tried. So out of I think 22, I got 16 in first go. So I was
Okay.
very enthusiastic to do the second one. And when I did second out of 25, I did 22 at that time. right?
Okay.
But I would like to discuss what was wrong, what are the wrong answers, and why I had that if we would have time. That
Okay,
was my
let's do that.
experience. Yeah,
That's what I have right here for you.
yeah.
So
Thank you.
let's start from the top. Did anybody have any problems with questions 1 through 5? What was the first question somebody had a problem with?
I got number 1 wrong.
Well, okay.
But I didn't read right before I did the test. I read like a week before.
Uh-huh.
So
Let me explain why I made y'all do practice test questions on chapters 1 and 2. Chapters 1 and 2 are super basic, right? Whenever we work with the Watermark Test Bank, it wants you to know this terminology. It wants you to know the voice of the BABOK. And it's going to ask us these types of questions. And it's going to be in this kind of format. And that's one reason I gave it to you now, because it kind of sprinkles throughout the rest of the test questions as we get through the knowledge areas. So the question, what is the BABOK guide? It's a globally recognized standard for the practice of business analysis, describing business analysis knowledge areas, tasks, underlying competencies, techniques, and perspectives on how to approach business analysis. You're going to hear that over and over. The next one that's most important probably is this one. Which statement best describes the practice of business analysis? It's a practice of enabling change in an enterprise by defining needs and recommending solutions that deliver value to stakeholders. If you said any of those pieces more strongly, you could make a whole paragraph about it, but especially defining needs, recommending solutions, and delivering value. That's what we do. I see some furrowed brows. Somebody have a concern? Okay.
I have a concern on the question 1, Tia. If you go
Okay,
back
let's
to
go back to
the
question 1.
options, yeah,
Yes.
I thought it's C. If you show the options for the
Mm-hmm.
first question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not on 1-1. Let me go to 1-1. Here we are.
Yeah,
The purpose of the BABOK guide. What
I
is the
thought
BABOK?
I thought it's C
Okay.
because it's really, really similar if you read, right?
It is really, really similar. Just a few words off, right?
Yeah.
I tried to make it, and because I used AI to check my work and trusted what it came back with, I tried to make the correct answer to be a quote out of the BABOK guide. So is this the quote?
I need to double check. I didn't double check after that. I
Okay,
thought that I'm
you
gonna
double
discuss.
check.
Yeah.
If I made a mistake, and trusting AI can always be possibly a mistake, but if I made a mistake and there's an improvement that can be made to this, please let me know, because I do want to make it better, because I'm
Okay.
using the same thing for multiple classes.
Okay, I'll check in the book and I'll let you know.
Thank you very much. What's the
Okay.
next one you want to look at?
12th. Question 12.
Question 12. Okay.
Yeah.
That was question 9 and question 12. So the question is, which statement best describes the knowledge areas in the BABOK guide? The
Yeah.
answer, according in 1.4, is knowledge areas are a collection of logically but not sequentially related tasks which describe specific activities that accomplish the purpose of their associated knowledge area. So basically, knowledge areas are a group of related tasks, and the knowledge areas are not sequential.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, what's the next one?
Next 3 questions were wrong for me.
Okay.
14.
13.
Sorry, say it again.
13,
13?
14, 15. Yeah.
No, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to go to here. 13. Here's the answer. What is a task in the context of business analysis? It's a discrete piece of work that can be performed formally or informally as part of business analysis. So it's a small thing, a discrete piece of work.
Mhm.
And it doesn't need to be delivered. I think that's the thing that trips a lot of people up.
I did option A. If you just show the options here, that will be easy to understand. Yeah.
Must be delivered. It doesn't necessarily have to be delivered.
Okay.
So I did answer. It says a B option, discrete piece of work that must be performed formally as a part of business analysis.
So there's the rub. It can be formally or informally. And if you look at 1.4.3, you should see this as a quote.
Okay.
And then the next one, 14.
Yeah. The
In
same.
what order may tasks be performed according to the Babok guide?
I think I did D.
Well, you got in any order, and that's true, but you've got to have the task, the input has to be present, not
Yeah.
identified.
Yep.
And it sounds like I'm being real picky, guys, but this test questions are going to be this picky. So I want you to really understand what it says in the Babok is the way we do it. Have I given y'all the analogy of $100 bill? Have I told y'all that? A few of you? Okay, I'm going to say it one more time just to be sure. In the Secret Service, the way that they get people to know how to tell what a counterfeit is they get them to focus on it so much for so long and handle it constantly that if they see a counterfeit, they know instantly that it's wrong. They might not know what's wrong, but they know what's right about the real thing. I want you to focus on the Babok so much that if instead of it being present, it says identified. Nope, that's not right. Because you know what the Babok says. You learn the voice of the Babok. Okay, and you said 15 also?
Yes, please.
Which tasks are likely candidates to start a business analysis initiative?
I did
So,
C.
okay. Analyze current state and conduct a elicitation.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that might not be right? What could be a better answer according to the Babok?
Like as per your answer sheet, it's A.
That's right. So analyze current state is correct. And if I were guessing, I would say that you read the first half of it and went, that seems right. But the Babok says measure solution performance. You know, it's like we don't know what needs to change until we know what we currently have. So it's more of the analyzing the current state.
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't
Anything
know
else?
about,
Go ahead.
well, I was going to say, I didn't know about that one because it looks like it goes into other chapters.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you go to, let's go here. Babok 1.4.3. I have the Babok right here. Let me grab it. On one of my screens. Come on. There we go. Nope, I got it on this one. How many screens do I need to open to find it? I don't know. It's not that one. Not that one. Must be this one. Okay. Let me show y'all this just in case you haven't seen it. If you're an IIBA member, and I highly encourage you to become an IIBA member simply for this, but also you get discounts that make up for your registration fee. You have free access to the PDF of the Babok, so you can do searches. You can do searches by number, you know, those 1.4.3. You can do a search, it takes you directly there. You can search for, where was it that I saw that word, you know, the RAID log or the Maslow or whatever, Moscow, wherever. You can do searches using that. Also, If you scroll down here, you can get to the standard, which is kind of like the Cliff Notes version. And this is something we're going to look at in a few minutes. This is the errata. And this is where it tells you on this section, this is what it says, and you need to change it to this. And some of it's real picky. It's like the formatting has changed. The indentation is different. I don't care about that, really. I want the words to be right. And so we'll be working on that. So I want you to know this is in the IIBA's website available to you. And let's access this PDF version. And I'm going to drop this right up here and drop, goodness gracious, where did it go? Right here. So we're wanting to go to 1.4.3. And here it is. So what tasks are likely candidates to start the business analysis initiative? Got to scan here, guys. Point 3.
It's right there.
Did I miss it?
Yeah,
I'm
right.
sorry. I get
Stop.
blind.
It's at the before it goes into the bullet points. Yeah,
There you go. Right there. Thank you.
no problem.
So that's how how I made the question, is went through and figure out which things I really wanted you to know, and I pulled them out of there. So let me move that aside. So that explains to you why I put this answer. I put this at the end of all the answers. So if you don't understand it, if you don't agree, you can go look it up. And if I'm wrong, tell me. Okay? Anybody else? Any other questions?
Yeah, actually, I have. Would it be possible for us who joined this week to get a copy of this?
I will be sending it out to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and normally, I mean, I sent it out at the end of last week, but I know we had several people. We had somebody join like 30 minutes ago. They paid the registration. And so that's why I sent out another thing that said, here's how to join the class, because I didn't have a way to do it any other way.
Okay.
Hey,
Thank
any
you.
other questions? Okay, let me emphasize, I made up these questions myself by using the BABOK, and I cleared it with Jared, who is the guy that's head over all the chapters. And I said, I'm quoting it, I'm giving credit to it. I don't think I'm breaking any copyright rules. He said, no problem. You're doing it to help people understand it and learn it, and you're giving credit. So we're good there. So I don't have a problem with sending it out, but I do want it to be the very best it can be. Any other questions for chapters 1 and 2? Okay. I'm going to take you to chapter 9, and then we're going to go to chapter 11. And remember, this is part of that thing I told you about. This is that far background stuff, not part of actually doing the project, but I want you to understand what's chapter 9 and chapter 11. So let's move down here. That's chapter 10. Okay. Chapter 9 is underlying competencies. Underlying competencies is literally things like interaction skills, effective listening, organizational knowledge. Let me get to the beginning of chapter 9 here. There we are. Underlying competencies. So it's grouped into 6 categories. This is a thing I want you to read. And if I'll send out questions so you can answer questions about it. It's not important that you answer questions. It's important that you understand what's in this. It's not to be memorized. It's not going to be a thing that's going to be like on the test heavily. This is just like whenever we're talking about workshops, we're going to say, remember, you have to use active listening. Well, they want this definition of active listening from this chapter. That's the reason I want you to read it. This is probably the easiest next thing, and that's the reason I did it in this order. Under each of these categories, it breaks it down into additional. So in analytical thinking and problem solving, it's broken down into creative thinking, decision making, learning, problem solving, systems thinking, conceptual thinking and visual thinking. They're very different things. And I'll tell you the truth. I helped write this chapter. Me and 4 other people wrote this chapter. And at the time I thought, well, this is easy. And I fought for things like you split teaching and learning. They had it together. And I'm like, no, that's 2 totally different focuses. And now that I'm teaching this and I had to learn it also, I had to learn it's truly 2 totally different focuses. Each of these are organized in exactly the same manner. Creative thinking, everyone has a purpose, everyone has a definition, and everyone has effectiveness measures. I had somebody say, I don't understand effectiveness measures. What does that mean? It means that if these symptoms are happening, you're doing this properly. You're doing it good. Creative thinking, if you're generating and productively considering new ideas, exploring concepts and ideas that are new, exploring changes to existing concepts and ideas, generating creativity for self and others, and applying new ideas to resolve existing problems. That means that's what creative thinking is made for. That's doing it well. That's what effectiveness measures are. Now, in the questions, I literally have a question for each one. For creative thinking, what is the purpose? And it gives you 4 options. And then what is the definition? And it gives you just a sentence that kind of summarizes all this. It gives you 4 options. It's just to help you be sure you understand. It gives you a different way to address this. Now, I'm not going to grade you. I do want you to go through it. And if answering questions is the way that you learn, this is beneficial for you. It's long because there are a lot of these. As you saw up here, there are 6 categories, and in each category, there's probably 6 different subcategories. For each one of those, there's 3 questions. So I'll send this out. You use it if that's the way your brain thinks, if that's the way you learn. I want you to customize this experience to the way your brain needs it. Okay? So that's underlying competencies. I'd like to ask you to at least read this chapter for this next week. And you can use the practice test questions at will. Now, I'm going to jump over to chapter 11. Chapter 11 is a little bit different animal. Let's see, where are we? I can't tell. Oh, we're in perspectives. Chapter 11 is perspectives, so we're good. Almost there. So, when we were writing the BABOK, the Agile Manifesto had just come out. The Agile Alliance was being created. The Scrum Alliance was being created. We did not know if the term Agile was going to be copyrighted. And so for many of us, we were told, avoid the word Agile, use the word adaptive. So whenever you see adaptive throughout the BABOK, you're going to think it means Agile. And Agile is change-driven, according to the BABOK. You're going to see that later. And what they call waterfall is plan-driven, or I think there's another word, structured. Anyway, if you see adaptive, you're thinking Agile. So whenever we get in here, in chapter 11, there are 5 different perspectives. It's basically 5 different ways of looking. Alba, you said earlier, being a PM is very different. It's a very different way of thinking than being a BA. These are all very different ways of thinking. And I don't know if this helps anybody, but whenever I think about people in a project, I always think about people standing around the cylinder, and they each have different focuses. The BA is looking through the cylinder at all the people and all the tasks and trying to coordinate everything, keeping track of who needs to do what and what information is there and if there's conflicts. The PM is turned away from the cylinder because they take all the information from the project and they go deliver it to management. It's very, very challenging to be a PM and a BA at the same time unless it's a very small project. So working in business intelligence is a very different focus. Information technology, business architecture, and business process management. you've got a different focus. You've got different goals. You've got different ways of looking at things. So each of these are different perspectives. However, for you working on your CBAP studies, you don't, in my opinion, need to read this entire chapter. This is what I'd like for you to learn. Learn that adaptive means agile. You know, agile is a incremental, small pieces at a time. You know that it's a team-driven thing, not somebody telling them what to do. So it's a different perspective there. There is a section in Agile that I would like for you to look at, though. If you go down to 11.1.3, which is page 373, and you look at this list of approaches. In my perspective, you don't need to read this entire table, but do read the name of the approaches so that whenever you see it later in a few places, you know this is where you can go to learn more about it. So the extreme programming, you're going to see that somewhere else in the BABOK. You probably won't see most of the rest of these. You probably are familiar with a lot of these from your own experience, but I want you to know it's in the BABOK right here. And then whenever you get down to 11.1.2, which is page 375, I do recommend that you read this entire table. And the reason for that is many of these techniques you're going to see, but some of these techniques you're going to want to implement in your own practices. So understanding what a persona is, if you've never heard of it, never used it, understanding what it is according to the BABOK is a really good thing. So just read this entire table. It's not very long. Some of it is, you're going to read it and you're going to go, value stream mapping. I kind of understand what that is. Well, according to the BABOK, this is what it is. And remember, we are now in the BABOK Corporation. And in the BABOK Corporation, this is the way we do it. I need to say this for those of you who are new. The BABOK was written for an international audience in every single industry. And so whenever they wrote it, they knew that it wasn't going to align specifically with every single person's experience. So we did the best we could. What I found in the years since is that it aligns with my experience about 90%. It's like, yep, that's exactly the way I would do it. And then about 10% is like, what? I wouldn't bring that stakeholder into this. That's not that stakeholder's job, things like that. Pretend like you're walking into a brand new company called the BABOK Company. They've just hired you. And they say, hey, just so you know, the PMO requires you to fill out this form for every single project. You're going to fill out that form, right? Because this is our new environment. This is the new requirements that we have to live under. So you learn these things according to the BABOK, and you're not really just learning it to take the test. You're learning it because it's a new suggested way that you might find is better than the way you do it. But you learn it so that you can take the test also. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So there are not going to be test questions. I'm not going to send out questions on chapter 11, but I do want you to look at these two tables in chapter 11 and just understand this much about the Agile perspective. If you want to read the entire thing, go for it. If you have bandwidth and you can put that much in your brain, more power to you. But I'm not going to give you things to do that I don't think are going to benefit you with the CBAP. Okay. Okay. Next thing is there are some things in the glossary that the terms in the glossary, I wrote that one too. The terms in the glossary are not necessarily exactly what you would expect. And I'm not even going to, it's down here somewhere. I'm going to send out a little thing I put together with about 50 terms in it that I think are unexpected. It's like either in the glossary or in the BABOK, it uses this term, and it's like some people get it confused with this. So it's the term, what it basically says in the BABOK, its meaning, and then what people get confused about. So that if you get that into your head, I think that you can read the entire glossary if you want to, but if you get just the spreadsheet that I'm going to send to you in your head, it's like, oh yeah, she said it was going to be that meaning. so that you'll have the meaning that it's talking about whenever you read the sentence and you grasp the concept it's trying to explain. So I'll be sending that out as well. Okay, one of the things I want you to do is understand that there are 50 categories of techniques in the BABOK. And in previous classes, we have gone through this and we've tried to, we went through the 6 knowledge areas and then we went through the techniques. Guys, I swear those meetings just started dragging because you started talking about things like, here's how to run a workshop, but you're not matching it to the actual practice that you would need. It's like, which knowledge area is that? Let me talk about a scenario. They just started becoming techniques. It got to be really dry. So I changed. And now what I'm going to do is, as we walk through the different knowledge areas, I'm going to talk to you about specific techniques. And we're going to talk about how would this technique be used in this knowledge area with this task. And it will help you learn the technique according to the BABOK. It will also help you learn the task better, and it makes it a whole lot less dry. Tonight, I'm going to go through a few of the techniques that they're not necessarily related to specific, they're easier is what I'm trying to say. And some of these is like, y'all already use them. Y'all are all experienced BAs. Let me sign into this computer real quick, and I'm going to go through the list with you real quick. 2 hands to do this. So, if you have your Post-it notes and you want to just throw Post-it notes into each of these in your BABOK, that's not a bad idea. And I'm not going to give them to you specifically in order, but I'm doing the best I can with some of these because some of these I got to put together and they aren't side by side. So the first one is the glossary. A glossary. It's 10.15. Let's see if I can give you page numbers here. Oh, I want 10.15. Thank you. Page number is 256. That's not the right one. I don't know why it gave me that. I'm sorry. We're talking about 10.23 is the glossary. Let's go to that one. So the purpose of the glossary is to define key terms relevant to a business domain. Many of you have used a glossary. I just got finished talking about the glossary in the BABOK. For a project, it's really important that you're all speaking the same language. And sometimes whenever you walk into a brand new project, they have their own language. I remember the second day I worked at Quest Diagnostics, my job was to rewrite the laboratory management system. And I sat down with the laboratory manager and her assistant to see, what is it you think we're supposed to do? And they started throwing codes across the table, a CBC and an A1C I thought they were punking me. It would have been hilarious had I not been panicking inside. They had their own language and I had to learn it so that I could understand what we needed to do. So I started a glossary and I did it, and it's a public glossary so that they could tell me if I was making a mistake and that if there were any developers that needed the information or whatever. It's a glossary. It's basic terms, okay? So let's go now to concept modeling, which is like the next step, more complex in glossary. This is going to be page 245. It's technique 10.11. So the idea of concept modeling is one step more complex than a glossary. This is whenever you get to things that are how concepts relate. And let me grab another screen here. This is things like walking into an insurance agency, company, and understanding that there is a policy, a policyholder, coverage, premium, a claim, and an adjuster. Those are easy, right? You put those in the glossary. However, then you get to relationships between those, and you're thinking about database relationships and things like that. So the policyholder owns one or more policies. A policy includes one or more coverages. A policy covers a risk. A customer files a claim. It's the relationship between the noun and the verb and the noun, so that you can identify the relationship between those things that are in the glossary. And you can go into diagramming if it gets complex, or you can just keep it in verbs and sentences if it's a small amount. But at some point, if it gets complex, you need to start doing diagrams. And we will talk about diagrams later. Does everybody understand that? Concept modeling? Okay. I do encourage you to actually read these in the BABOK, but I'm trying to give you the Cliff Notes version so you can have a grasp of it.
Yeah. I do
The
have a quick
next one
question
I
for
want to
you.
give. Yes, yes.
So, like at the enterprise level, right? Is it acceptable to have both the glossary and the concept modeling? We should, as a BA, we should always, choose one. I guess is
Oh
my
no,
question. Okay.
no. What you'll find is that it's a great idea to have a glossary at an enterprise level. That's a very hard thing to maintain. First of all, nobody wants to own it, and so it doesn't get updated properly, right? Typically, you're going to have it at like a division level or maybe a department level. And I have pushed for every job I've ever had. Let's have it at an enterprise level, but nobody wants to own it.
Okay.
Whenever you get into concept modeling, you're going to be talking about, say, Ashley, are you still on?
I'm here.
Okay. So if I were talking about SharePoint and I were talking about a specific system in SharePoint, concept modeling would be specific for that system because in that system, this is the way it's arranged. Am I saying that right, Ashley? Or is it Salesforce? I get Salesforce and SharePoint.
I'm Salesforce.
She's Salesforce. Okay.
Yeah.
In Salesforce. So whenever you're talking about, say, the company I work for, Cincinnati Insurance Companies, we've got personal lines and we've got commercial lines. Commercial lines is much more complex than personal lines.
Yeah.
And so if I'm talking about how this system works and for this particular kind of claims, let's say auto claims can have these relationships, but auto claims over in personal lines have a totally different relationship. So their concept model would not be the same. So you can't have it at an enterprise level. It's got to be at a level that's at the right granularity for that particular application or group of applications. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And thank you for clarifying that.
You know, you ask the best questions. Keep doing it, okay? Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is observation. Observation is almost too simple to talk about, but because the BABOK talks about it, I'm going to do it here. Observation, the purpose is to elicit information by viewing and understanding activities and their context. So observation can be you observe people and they know you're observing them, or you can observe people and they don't know you're observing them. I can guarantee you're going to get more information from them if they know you're observing them, because then you can ask them questions. You can say, why did you do that? Or the other person did this in a different order. Why are you doing it in this order? If they don't know you're observing them, you will get truth. Okay? But you can't ask questions. So sometimes it's good to start there. For instance, inbound customer service. People can sit with their headsets on and watch your screen and watch what you're doing and listen to you, and they can see what you're doing. You don't know that they're there. Okay? But if they come and sit beside you, they can see what you're doing. They can see and ask you questions and interact with you. So both of those are observation. One is your it's called passive. Look at that. Passive unnoticeable or active noticeable. two different kinds of observation. You've done it. I like to watch people watch. That's called observation. I'm gonna stop talking about techniques for just a second. Several of you have said that you think you might not have enough time, enough hours to take the CBAP test. I'm going to tell you that you probably do. You just don't know it. Let's say that you have, before you were a business analyst, you were a student, or you were a teacher, or you were an analyst, or you were a parent. Guys, I can guarantee you were doing business analysis, but you were not using the terminology that we're using. You didn't say, I'm observing my child to see how they react to this stimuli. You didn't say, I'm going to check my stakeholders to see if they're all ready to go to bed. You didn't use these terms, but you were doing business analysis. If you don't think you have enough time, please contact me on LinkedIn and we can set up some time and I can just talk you through it. And if you don't, great. But if you do, I don't want you to miss out on this opportunity to go ahead and get your CBAP instead of your CCBA or something else. All right? Okay. I do this a lot. So if you are brave enough to come talk to me, I bet you I can help you. Okay, let's go back. Any questions on observation? Okay. The next one I want to talk to you about is survey and questionnaire. Look how many times survey and questionnaire shows up in the BABOK. Let's just go to the top. We're going to go to page 350. Survey and questionnaire. So survey and questionnaire has some things that you need to know about. First of all, you've all received a survey. Which pizza do you want for our group lunch? Just something. And the questions can be closed-ended. I want pepperoni or cheese. Or they can be open-ended where it just leaves it open for you to put in anything you want. There's positives and negatives to both of these things. Also, in every one of the techniques, it's going to give you some steps that you need to take. And at the very bottom, it's going to give you strengths and limitations. There are a lot of strengths to a survey. They're quick. They're relatively inexpensive. They're easy to collect information, say from, let's say that you are a BA and you're working on a sales program for washing machines in Malaysia and the Philippines. You're not going to be able to go there. A survey is a great way to get information from those stakeholders, those people that are running the stores and stuff. Surveys are great. There are limitations to it. You have to have some really, really good questions. And it actually says specialized skills and statistical sampling methods are needed. The response rates are very often too low for statistical significance. If you use open-end questions, you might have to do follow-ups or go through and read and decide what did they mean by this word versus what did they mean by this word. Is it the same meaning? Ambiguous questions can be left unanswered or answered incorrectly, which messes up your results. And then you might have to do more follow-ups. Basically, surveys, they're easy to send out and they're hard to get any good information back from them. Does that make sense? Okay. The next thing I want you to, as I said, these are like the easiest ones. So y'all are probably like, why is she talking to us about this stuff?
Sorry, I
Yes,
have a
go
quick
ahead.
question. I have a quick question about the surveys.
Sure.
So at my company, we do this. It's like called the voice of the BSA. And basically what it is, it's a survey. I'll say a survey, but it's more of, you're looking for feedback about how you performed on a project. And again, it's like you just stated, several times people don't respond at all. And sometimes they provide an immense amount of feedback that really helps you, build in yourself and which is great. But when does it come a point when it's like, this is not, I won't say like a cat milestone to a project, but when it becomes like this is critical for me to develop and continue learning and getting that importance across to those project team members. Because sometimes I feel like it's almost a waste because you just don't get anything back.
I would suggest that you approach those project team members before you send out the survey and say something like this. And it has to be honest, it has to be sincere, but say, I really appreciate your feedback. And I feel like you have a perspective that is very valuable to me because you can see my performance from the outside. And so I'm going to ask that whenever you receive the survey, that you give me 5 minutes and tell me what I can do better and tell me what I've done well, because that really is going to form and shape my performance over the next 6 months. So partner with them, get them the emotional buy-in to respond to the survey in a way that's not just, she did good. That's, that doesn't align with what you just said to them. Give them something that allows them to understand the criticality of giving you good feedback.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. I would also say that if you can guarantee to them that it's anonymous, that they can say anything they want to, and you're not going to know who said it, or your boss is not going to know who said it, or whatever. That way they can give you creative criticism. If they say it makes me crazy when you're chewing gum while I'm talking to you, if that's true, you want to know it.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to determine, is it truly anonymous or not?
Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. Any questions about surveys and questionnaires? Okay. I did mention the word statistical sampling. There really is a mathematical art to taking the results and saying, 50% of the people who responded this way also said this, or 23% of the people who said that they were ready to quit said that they were most frustrated by their job, their boss. Whatever it is, you can look at like chains of logic in it. So if you have some statistics, if you've taken the course, just even the basics, it's beneficial for you. Okay. Okay, let's look at lessons learned, page 296. This is 10.27. How many of you have been in a retrospective or been in a retro? Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. Okay. Many of you have probably done a personal retro. It's like, let's make it easy. You went on vacation with your spouse and y'all were gone for a week, and you had a plan and you had these goals and you had these expectations. And at the end of the vacation, you sat down and went, well, we had some things that didn't happen the way we expected. What would we want to be different next time? That's a retrospective, right? That's identifying lessons learned. I had a lesson learned today. We have a pretty little stray cat that has been living on our back porch mostly. And I've been feeding her because she's pitiful and lovely, and she loves me to scratch her back. Anyway, she's cute. She looks kind of like she's a Maine Coon, and she's only about a year old. And I knew I should go get her fixed, but I didn't want to catch her because I was going to scare her and put her in the thing. And well, now she's pregnant. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I called the people that can like take in animals and take care of them while they have their babies so that the babies aren't like turn feral. And they said, you got to check and see if she's chipped first. Well, I thought it was going to be brilliant to put the cat carrier right inside the door and pick her up and put her into it. Well, I didn't know that she was going to pee all over me and the carpet and everything else. Putting it in the house was not. So my lesson learned is don't put the cat carrier in the house if you have to pick up a cat that's going to be scared. So that's my lesson learned. So the purpose is to compile and document successes, opportunities for improvement, failures, and recommendations for improving the performance of future projects and project phases. Lessons learned is never a bad thing, but you have to introduce it in a really smart way. Because a lot of people will think you're being critical of us. You're going to get us in trouble. You're going, that kind of stuff. That's not the goal. Our goal is we have such a fantastic team, and I'm really excited about our successes. And we've learned some stuff, and I don't want to lose the stuff we've learned because, they say if you don't write things down, you're doomed to repeat them. So I want to document the good and bad. And so I do a retrospective, and there are 14 million different kinds of retrospective. I personally like the sailboat. Have you ever heard of the sailboat retrospective? Isn't it cool? I have a picture. I'll see if I can send it out to you too. It's a nice little lagoon, and you've got a sailboat, and on the sail you write, these are the things that moved us forward. And then on the anchor, these are the things that held us back. And then you got a shark or a reef over here, and these are the dangers that we see possibly in the future. And then you've got a lighthouse up on the hill. These are the things that kept us going in the right direction. And I've got all these things labeled on mine. I'll send it out to you. But it's a fun way that's not like in your face, what did you do wrong? These are the things that we could do better. These are the people we want to acknowledge, things like that. That's a way to do lessons learned. And let's scroll down to the strengths and limitations. If you identify areas of improvement, I'll tell you the truth. I know a lot of management folks that are like, y'all are doing it on your own. You don't need me to come be managing you. This is what you call a self-directed team. It's a pretty cool thing. And they kind of back off a little bit. It's kind of nice. Oh, look, Amanda's giving us a sailboat. Good. You do build a lot of team morale, especially after a difficult period, because it helps you emotionally pull together. People say, I was really disappointed when we had to move that deadline. I thought we were going to achieve it. And other people can say, yeah, I went home and cried. I just got to tell you. People get a little transparent. People do this thing, and it builds trust. It is the most valuable thing to build trust is by being transparent. Look at all these good strengths and then limitations. Honest discussions may not occur if participants try to assign blame during these sessions. Honest discussions will not occur if they have an imposing management figure sitting there. If they've got a trusted management figure, they might work. But usually you don't let management into these things because people won't speak up. Participants may be reluctant to document and discuss problems. In less mature teams, you're going to find this. This is a maturity thing. You're going to see the maturity of your team. And then proactive facilitation may be required to ensure the discussions remain focused on solutions and improvement opportunities. You want to document the challenges, but you want to push it forward. Sometimes having a facilitator come in that is not part of your team or being the facilitator for a different team is a really, really good idea. And as you develop your facilitation chops, you're going to be the one asked to, could you come help us with this facilitation? These people are at each other's throats. If you can do that, it's a good thing. Okay, any questions about lessons learned? Okay. Let's go back to, I got excited into this computer again. Oh no, we got it. Okay, the next one I want to talk to you about is called item tracking. Now, this is the term that we use. It's on page 294. It's 10.26. This is the term that's used in the BABOK. It may not be the term that you're familiar with. Item tracking is literally a way of keeping track of what's going on in your project. And these are suggested columns you can have. I like to use an Excel spreadsheet. And we have an item tracker in my current project that has 4 tabs. One is issues. These are things that we need to answer, problems that we see, things that need to be addressed. One is decisions. That way, whenever they say, oh no, that's not going to be part of the scope of this project, we put it in decisions in front of them on screen. who made the decision, what date it was made, exactly what was said, because we don't want to have to remember it. We want it there for everybody to share. So let's see, issues, decisions, risks. Risks of what we are concerned with. A risk, incidentally, according to the BABOK, is a concern that has not happened. If it has happened, it turns into an issue. So a risk. And then right now, I can't remember the fourth one. Any suggestions on what the fourth one would be? Risk, issues, decisions. Oh, assumptions. Assumptions is a really important thing to document. And once it becomes either confirmed or denied, it can stay right there in assumptions. But if it's an assumption that's confirmed, it may turn into also an issue. It may need to move over into that. But you get all four of those. It's important that you identify the date it was created, where it came from, give a category, especially if you think you're going to have more than, say, 3 or 4, put it in categories. And then a little text block of what it is. And in that text block, I encourage you to be very, very, very specific. And then what is the follow-up date? You know, they said that they'll have an answer to us by Friday. Fine, put that date in there. And who's going to give you that? That's the next column. The answer is going to come from this person or these people. And then the next column is going to be follow-up, the follow-up notes, like on 10/27, I always put the year first, 2026, 2/26. This person sent an email that said this thing, and this is the next thing to do. And I always put the next thing to do in red text. That way I can see it easily. And then the date of resolution, and if there was a resolution. So that's what I use in mine. These are other options that you can use in your own. Putting a category is really, really beneficial, because that way you don't have to read through every single block to figure out how to group things together. It's like, oh yeah, that was about the field for test compliance. It's just put test compliance field. Does that make sense to everybody? This is similar to what in project management they call a RAID log. RAID, let's see, risk, assumptions, issues.
Dependencies, right?
No, I think it's decisions. And in the RAID log examples that I tried to find an example for y'all, and they have all of those on one screen, and that would make me crazy. So just know in that particular one, they have the risk issue, all that stuff in a column, so you can kind of sort it, and it's color coded and it's fancy. I like to make it easy. An issue log keeps track of everything. If you have more than 2 people in the project, create an issue log and just have a template. And it's really nice if you are working with the same group of people for multiple projects and you're using the same template or the same format, they know what's going on. It makes it easier. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, next one is interviews. We talked about observations a while ago. Interviews is just like the next level. Interviews, page 290, it's 10.25. Interviews are more complicated than observation, because whenever you're observing somebody, you kind of have an idea of what you're wanting to find from them, but with an interview, you have to plan it. What is it you need to get from them? And with an interview, you need to know who they are, what their motivations are, how to talk to them. I have had interviews with people that didn't speak English. That was fun. We had to figure out a different way to get the information across. You also have what they call a structured interview and an unstructured interview. Either way, you have to know who it is you're talking to. I'm walking into this person's office. I need to know they're an executive vice president or they're the janitor. I need to know. I need to know what their role is. I need to know what their goals are. I need to know, do they even know about this project yet? You know, what do they know already? With a structured interview, you have a predefined set of questions. It's like I've got to ask 47 people these same 10 questions. With an unstructured interview, which is what I tend to do a lot more often, is you don't only ask them those questions. You also say, so what do you wish were different about your job? What are your pain points? You know, that's my favorite thing to ask them at the end of the interview, because that way we've built trust, we built rapport, and then they say, I wish it didn't take me 4 days every week to do this report that I've got to do for management. And I'm like, you mean you only get to spend 1 day a week on your job and you have to spend 4 days creating this report? And management didn't know that. And so I got them to show me the report. And in that process, I was able to show them a way to cut it down to 1 day, just because they did not know how to use their technology well, or they did not know that that report was already being created and they could copy paste it or whatever. So you've got structured interviews and unstructured interviews. Here are your, as I said, you have a goal. Let's go down. Oh, interview logistics. Sometimes you have to talk to people that are in other parts of the world. Remember, we wrote this 10 years ago. Virtual meetings was not a common thing then. So you can just understand that virtual meetings are probably not going to be considered. Whether or not to record the interview, send the questions to them in advance, all those things are considerations. And then usage considerations. Establishing rapport with your stakeholders is critical. You know that. Walking in there and them going, I don't understand why you're going to ask me these questions. How many of you have gone into an interview with somebody you haven't met before and they go, am I about to lose my job? Is that why you're asking me these questions? Have you ever had that experience? Okay. Okay, I see one nod. Okay, cool. It is very challenging to get somebody to trust you if that's what their perception is whenever you first walk in. And so you have to be sincere and honest and explain that you're here to try to understand what their job is so that you can help them help improve the job, help remove the mundane, repetitive tasks that they have to do. But until you know what they are, you can't help them. And so, you might have some kind of high level structure of the process. This department gives you this widget, and then you know that you give that widget onto this department, but you don't know what they do in the middle. And you want to understand this, and you want to understand their challenges and their timeframes and what applications they use and what's important to them and what regulations and law. I mean, you got to learn their world. I have literally had people that I've walked in, they thought they were going to lose their job, and by the end of about 2 weeks, they finally got to the point where they realized that they knew things about their job and about their company that nobody else knew. They knew things that were critical, that were concerning, and that somebody else needed to know it, and they had enough confidence built at that point that they were willing to go talk to people. And they moved up in the company. But it's just like, this is cool. This is what we do as business analysts. But we have to create that trust and rapport. Okay, limitations. There is significant time required to plan for and conduct interviews. It requires considerable commitment and involvement of participants. I mean, they can't just like not show up. You've got to get them there, right? You need to learn how to conduct effective interviews. You probably have done a great job. If you can do better, that's great. I have a facilitation organization that I love, that they have workshops, free workshops periodically. And it's like, I never thought about asking questions this way. And I just learned from participating in these workshops. I'll send that out to y'all. You can unintentionally lead the interviewee. It's like, don't you hate your job? I mean, we would never say that, but it has been said, that's a hazard of interviewing. You lead them. You got to instead kind of open it up and let them lead you. And it's important that no matter what they say, that you take enough interest in it to document it. Even if it's not what you came to ask, document it. And if it's parking lot, that's great. If it's not in scope of this project, that's great. If they care enough to say it to you, there's a reason. And maybe it'll be beneficial. Okay, any questions about interviews? Okay, we are going to go into stakeholder list, map, and persona. This is one of my very favorite things. DR list. Stakeholder list is not. There we go. Page 330, I'm sorry, page 344, it's 10.4.3. This is a way for you to document who your stakeholders are. And you're going to do it in a very different way than you do as a project manager. First of all, there's really two of these documents. There's one for public consumption and there's one for you. And public consumption is all the SMEs, all the developers, all the people that are in your core stakeholder group, in your team, and then stakeholders that are outside of that group, your users, your consumers, your vendors, all the stakeholders are going to be listed on this. And you identify who they are, what their role in the project is, how to contact them. If they say, I'm going to be, please just send me bullet points. I don't have time to read all the documents. You identify that in a column. How do they prefer to be contacted? But I personally like to have, keep going forward to the right in my columns, and I keep this hidden in public, whenever I'm showing it on the screen. Things like, what are their concerns? What are their motivations? What are their fears? What is the goal of their department? Are they about to retire? Are they new to the company? The things that help me understand how to relate to them better. You keep that there too. One of the reasons you keep it there is because you'll get to a point where you can't keep it all in your head. And this way you just know it's there. But again, you keep it hidden whenever it's on screen, because nobody needs to know that this person hates your project and they want it to die. That's not something for public consumption, but you need to remember that. Elements of this stakeholder list is the columns I told you. And then inside of this is what we call a stakeholder matrix. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Stakeholder matrix, this is not something that you're going to do on typical projects, but the BABOK wants you to know what it is. And it's something that is good to use if you're, say, doing an enterprise level project, or you're working with executives. They love these things. So this matrix is impact of the stakeholder goes from low to high, and then influence of the stakeholder goes from low to high. So you know that the people that are high influence and high impact, you're going to work closely with the stakeholder to ensure that they are in agreement with and support the change. So you're going to be buddies with them, right? You're going to learn what their needs are. You're going to have lunch with them. You're going to do whatever you need to do to be sure that you're on the same page and that they support the change. The people that are high influence but low impact, you're going to be sure that they remain satisfied. You're not going to spend so much time with them necessarily, but you want them to be satisfied. You'd ideally like everybody to be satisfied, but they have high influence. The people that have high impact but low influence, you're going to keep them informed. The stakeholder is likely to be very concerned and may feel anxious and have about the lack of control. So you're going to treat them a whole lot like this. You're going to keep them informed. They require a little bit different kind of care. And then the folks that are low impact and low influence, you're just going to monitor them. Be sure that they don't turn into a high impact or a high influence. And this is just a graphical way of showing where they are and tells you how to behave toward them. Now, this sounds really manipulative. And hearing myself say this to you, it sounds like I'm being very cold and manipulative, but that's not my intention. My intention is to understand the perspective of that stakeholder, where they live, and be sure that they stay positive for your project. Okay? So this is stakeholder matrix. You're going to see questions about this. And let me scroll down just a little bit more. I talked to you about your core team a while ago. This is called an onion diagram. You've got this is your project team. These are the people that you work with daily, probably. Then you've got your affected organizational unit. They're your level 2s. Then you've got your organization and enterprise. These are going to be like the users that are going to be using the UI for the application you're creating. They're could be affected, or they could be just further out, depending on how impacted they are. And then you've got your affected external stakeholders like customers, regulators, suppliers. All of these people have a role to play in your project. But this is a different way, a visual way of helping you group people. And what I've discovered is if I will go into, say, it's a brand new contract with a brand new organization, and I go in and I have the names of the people I know, and I'll say, well, do we have anybody else? And I'm asking the team this and on a whiteboard or virtually. And I'll say, is there anybody else that would be help desk? Do we have help desk represented in here? Oh, no, let's put John in there. And so they start volunteering stakeholders. And I find out, John is getting ready to leave the company, and he's got somebody else that's coming, that's going to take his place. So we need to put him in there too. And so it's a really good way visually to show this is who I know instead of a stakeholder list. This is who I know, and who else do we need to add to our stakeholder list? Okay, onion diagram. Okay. RACI matrix. How many of y'all have used a RACI matrix?
Yes.
Yes? Yes. Good. Good. Well, a RACI matrix is very, very commonly used at a project level. So as I enter a project, we do a kickoff. I know that my group is not going to be involved until this section here, because I can see from the RACI matrix, we're not part of that. So for a project level, it works really well. I have a training out there that teaches how to use it at a meeting level. And I tell you, I sincerely believe that you cannot use it properly and have anybody leave the meeting and not know what they're obligated to do. And everybody else knows what they're obligated to do too. So it creates that peer pressure that creates accountability without you having to go say, you said you would do this. It's out there. So if I think about it, or if y'all are interested, how about if y'all are interested, I will send that out so y'all can see that. But that's really, really the RACI matrix. Personas. Personas are, you have a project and you say, who is this going to impact? And say, for instance, at Hallmark greeting cards, we had the persona that was so well known in the organization. For the first 6 months, I thought they were talking about somebody in management, because they would say literally, she's not going to like this. I didn't know who they were talking about. They were talking about the persona of the customer. She is 63 years old. She's got 4 grandkids. She's got 2 cats. She gets send greeting cards to every one of her grandkids for their birthday, for Christmas, for Easter. She gets decorations for they knew this lady. I think they even named her Betty. She got the collectible Christmas ornaments. They knew who she was. And so whenever they designed things, they designed them for her. Whenever we started doing customized products, they created new personas, because it's a different demographic that wants customized than Betty. Now it's the preppy mom that has, people over after the PTA meeting, and she wants a customized cutting board that, has her family name on it, so they created different personas. That's exactly what this is talking about. It's deciding who it is you're talking to, who you're making this for, how they will use it, Do they have vision impairments? Do they need you to send out marketing in this way? Very often you're going to be working with UI and UX whenever you're working with personas. Usually in some organizations, they are the ones who bring you, this is your persona that you're going to be working with for this project. Okay. Any questions on personas? Okay. The limitations, you may not use personas properly if you're continuously working with the same teams. You may not use stakeholder analysis and management techniques because they think they know the persona so well. So you gotta understand that as a hazard. And then it says assessing information about a specific stakeholder representative, such as influence and interest, can be complicated and feel politically risky. I'm going to have to think about even what that means, but I didn't want to not read it. Okay, any questions about all of this? Stakeholders, lists, maps, and personas. Okay, we have just a few more minutes. I'm going to send y'all a video for collaborative games. Collaborative games is just a category in here. It's a whole section. You can watch it, but collaborative games is, if you don't understand it, I've got a video of here's 4 collaborative games and we're going to do it as a workshop. And it's kind of fun. It's not necessary for you to watch it, but I think it's better than just reading the words on the page and not seeing it. Brainstorming. How many of you have done brainstorming? Yes, yes, a couple of you. Okay. Well, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of brainstorming. Brainstorming is, what more can we do? What other ideas can we do? So let's say we're doing a brainstorming on, we're going to have a dessert bar at the company gathering. What kind of dessert should we bring? What does people like? And people just kind of start throwing out things. The cool thing about brainstorming is you do it verbally and people hear something and they hear something else and it gives them a brand new idea that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. That's one of the best things about brainstorming. If you look at the technique in brainstorming, it's going to say that getting people to speak up sometimes is challenging. And I'll tell you the truth. If you got some extroverts in the room like me, that we think out loud, the introverts who think better than we do will not try to speak up because we're steamrolling over them because we just start talking and they don't have time to talk. So this is a facilitation thing. Whenever you're doing brainstorming, you got to be sure everybody has a chance to talk and set the stage ahead of time. It's important to me that we get information from each person. You have valuable things to contribute and I want to hear it. Okay. Next thing I want to do is root cause analysis. How many of you have done the 5 whys? You know what the 5 whys are? Yes, Jennifer? Good.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the big thing about understanding root cause analysis is this. If you don't know the real reason that there's a problem, you might be trying to solve a symptom of the problem. And sometimes finding the real reason of the problem allows you to solve the real problem. And it's like not even the problem you were set out to solve. Sometimes you get a business case and they want you to go do this thing and you say, why are we doing this? What are we trying to solve? And you go talk to people and come back and go, the world is not what you thought it was. And you have to kind of do some mediation and some negotiation to be able to solve the real problem, or even determine, is that problem worth solving? Is the juice worth the squeeze, is what we like to say. So that's root cause analysis. You're going to find root cause analysis all through the BABOK. It's important that we're solving the right problem. It's important that we're challenging in a politically correct way. We're challenging to be sure we're solving the right problem. Only got 2 more to go, and we've got 4 minutes. I think we'll be just fine. Document analysis is literally analyzing documents. And it may be, going through people's results of how do I feel about my shopping experience at your store? or it may be looking at older reports. There's some hazards with document analysis is very often things that are in old documents are not accurate any longer. Sometimes they're hard to find. Sometimes you don't know if you're looking at the best version, all kinds of things. But document analysis is important. And the last one is mind mapping. Mind mapping is kind of like brainstorming, just in pictures. And it's a really good way to get people to contribute their ideas. You know, it's, again, for desserts, we want salty desserts and we want sweet desserts. So somebody says, okay, I'm going to work on the salty desserts that I love. And somebody else says, I'm going to work on the sweet desserts. And then you end up with this thing. And then you can say, okay, here's our options. The challenge with mind mapping is if you take it out of that group and go to somebody else and say, this is what we came up with, they will go, I don't know what you're talking about. I see what it is, but it's in a way that that group's dynamic created. And so you might have to transcribe it in a different way. Here's a list of salty, here's a list of sweet or something. But mind mapping is a really nice way to elicit new ideas or categories of ideas. Does all that make sense?
Tia, I
Okay.
have a question for the
Yes.
mind mapping because you said it should be used with pictures, but it's not like fundamentally used with pictures. It can be like when we use mind mapping, we use it, let's say, okay, we don't use it this way. That's definitely how we don't use it that way. Mind mapping is all about blocks, like I don't want to say like as if you're drawing processes, but it's linking, let's say, idea to an idea or somewhere from a system to a, it's not this way.
This is linking ideas, and you can make it blocks, you can make it pictures, you
Okay.
can make it
Okay.
colorful or black and white. It doesn't matter. It's
Okay.
however your group understands it. This is
Okay.
just an example. So when you said it's not pictures, I'm like, well, are we talking about the same thing? So in this one, strategies for whole food, plant-based living. So here's a well-stocked freezer. Here is before you start cooking. Here is don't go hungry, plan your meals. Here's your mindset. It's categories. You come out from categories and
Yeah.
then you make it more granular as you go. Make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. So I'm going to be sending y'all tomorrow a whole list I'm going to send you some questions that you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but the more you answer, the better you'll be. I'm going to send you a link to the recording for creative games. I'm going to send you my little thing that I made for the sailboat retro. I'm sure that whatever was in the chat was awesome. I didn't get to see it, and I just want to share mine with you too. I'm going to send you all kinds of things for next week. I want you to bring back any questions you have over what I sent you. If you go through the questions and you have some that you don't agree with, let's talk. If you don't, that's fine. But what I want you to do for next week is I want you to review what I showed you in chapter 11 for Agile, those two Agile tables. I want you to read chapter 9. Those of you who are new to the group, you also need to read chapters 1 and 2. I would suggest 1, 2, 9, and 11 in that order. I'm going to send you the glossary, the unexpected things out of the glossary. Not for you to memorize, just for you to be aware of. And then, if you have time, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and read chapter 3. I realize that's a lot. Some of this you can go into it as deeply as you want to. Chapter 3 is the very first one we're going to get into that you're actually going to be tested over. So, if you can, start bringing that into your brain. Do I have any questions? I see you're talking, but I can't hear you. Okay. Michelle, I see it says you're talking, but I'm not hearing anything.
Oh, sorry, I didn't say anything. I might have moved or something. I have a sensitive
That's
mic.
okay.
But no,
I wanted to hear what you had to say.
no, I
Okay.
appreciate that, but no, it's a lot to
Okay.
cover. But
It is a lot to cover. And if this is your first meeting, you're having to catch up, and I'm sorry. I do want to tell y'all, I know, I'm sorry, we're a little bit late. I want to tell you one more thing. We're recording this meeting, you know that, and it's going on YouTube, you know that. However, you don't know that I have another class that's starting on Saturday morning. And that's going to be it's going to be 8 o'clock Saturday morning, which is going to allow the folks in the UK and in Israel and in India and in Africa to join. And only 2 people have signed up for that class right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to go let y'all have recording of that class too, if you want it. And that way you get to have twice as much. Go into it as deeply as you want to. You don't have to watch every single thing I send to you. But what I'm trying to do is give you the most value that I can. I want you to, whenever you sit down in front of the test, in front of the computer to take the test, I want you to feel prepared to be able to take the test. So I'm going to give you lots more than I think anybody else is giving you. Okay? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I've enjoyed this. I know it's kind of been a monologue. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just because I requested if we can stay after the meeting
Oh,
for
yes, I'm
some
going to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going
Okay.
to stay. I'll just stop
Okay,
the
perfect.
recording.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to be sending you a whole lot of stuff. Please don't feel pressured. This is me trying to give you all the information that I think that you're going to need. And as we get into chapter 3, some of this stuff is going to go, oh, that's why she did it. But chapter 3 is literally, this is what I need to think about before I start a project. And that's all chapter 3 is. So if you have a chance to go ahead and read it, do it. I think it's going to be wonderful. I've enjoyed y'all's comments in the chat. That's cool. Okay, I'll see the rest of y'all later. I'm going to stay here with Katya. And if
Thank you.
anybody is from the UK or we did have somebody from the UK. Leakin, that wasn't you, right? You're here.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
here,
it was the other gentleman. I'm going to tell him if he wants to join the Saturday class, he can. Okay, thank
Thanks,
y'all.
Thea.
I'm going to
Have a good
stop
one.
the recording.
Thank you, Thea.
Thank you.
Thank